Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden, and we're also going to stick to my home county of Skåne here in the very south of the country. We're going to return to a brewery that has featured on the channel a good couple of times before, and it's been a wee while actually since I had a beer from these guys, about 18 months or so apparently, but I had thought that I reviewed something from these guys fairly recently. Apparently not though. But for this review then we are going to head up to Helsingborg in the kind of northwest part of Skåne, and we're going to have a look at another beer from Benchwarmers Brewing Company. So this particular beer is called the Tropic Fluff. It comes in at 4.5% ABV. This one is a New England hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA. And they've added apricot, passion fruit, coconut and a bit of vanilla into this one. So yeah, very curious to see how this one turns out. Like I say, it's my first beer from these guys in quite some time, but overall this is the fourth review that I've done from these guys. The last beer that I reviewed from Benchwarmers apparently was the Fat Lizard, which was another IPA. But yeah, nice to return to these guys after quite a little while. I didn't realise, as I say, that it had been so long since I reviewed a beer from them. So yeah, we'll need to see how we get on with this one. Quite recently I was in their tap room actually in Helsingborg with my friend Pontus, so I'll need to get up there at some point when it's not the winter and I can get, you know, nice lighting and things like that, and film a little out and about video for you up there. That's definitely a little project for the future, along with Barski as well. So I need to get up and film those two places in Helsingborg for you at some stage. But yeah, as I say, looking forward to trying this one, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. The Tropic Fluff, 4.5% New England Hazy IPA from Benchwarmers Brewing Company in Helsingborg here in Skåne in the south of Sweden. So yeah, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Benchwarmers Brewing Company before, and you will probably see more beers added to that list in the fairly near future. I won't be leaving it 18 months again before I review another of their beers, but there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to this channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to because obviously I live in Sweden and have easy access to the Swedish beers. But as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Benchwarmers Brewing then, on to my brewery notes. So as I've told you previously, Benchwarmers Brewing is owned by two childhood friends, Magnus Svensson and Anders Nilsson. So Magnus is an owning partner in Brewdog's operations in Sweden, and he comes from a background in customer service, whereas Anders has worked various different jobs but spent a long time working for an online web store. But both of these guys are childhood friends and come from Helsingborg, and they set up the company together back in 2016. They've got their own brewery in Rå to the south, which is a little kind of small fishing town actually, so it's to the south of Helsingborg, and during the summer in the early years they were opening the brew pub up and you know, serving burgers and you know, things like this as well. But they apparently named the brewery Benchwarmers because they say they spent a bit too much time sitting on benches and drinking beer, so they thought this was an ideal name for their brewery. But more recently they've opened up a tap room on Helsingborgsskagen, right next to the water in Helsingborg. Actually, it is quite a nice place. They've got good pizza in there as well, so definitely worth going and checking out if you find yourself in Helsingborg, along with Barski of course. But that's been going, I think, maybe just shy of a year now. I think that was opened in very early 2020, if I remember rightly. But as of January 2021, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced just shy of 110 different kinds of beer, according to Untappd. And you know, probably the easiest place to find some of the different ones that they do would be in their tap room, because I think they've maybe released about 20, maybe about 15 or 20 of them through Systembolaget. But like I say, according to Untappd, there have been around 110 different beers, and if they've got their own tap room now, it will be easy for them to, you know, put little pilot batches and things out there as well. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Benchwarmers Brewing Company for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all those different beers that they've done. But yeah, relatively new brewery, and it seems they've kind of scaled up their operations quite a little bit. over the last little while. But yeah, let's go on and have a taste of this beer then. So I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork of this one before we open it up. As you can see, it is kind of typical Benchwarmers. Does it say the artist's name on the can? No, it doesn't actually, unless it's maybe been covered by this sticker. So yeah, this one, as I say, 4.5% ABV. This is a 440ml can. I actually can't remember what I would have paid for this one. I think it might be, you know, if it's 4.5%, I think I'd be guessing about 40 Swedish kroners for that. So that's maybe about £3.50, €4, maybe $4.50 American, just to translate it into the different currencies for you. But it says here, yeah, sorry, the artwork by Mikael Melbris. So yeah, I have to say the artwork is pretty cool. But that is quite, you know, it's quite similar to the other stuff we've had from Benchwarmers before, albeit this one is a little bit more graphical, whereas the other ones were a bit more kind of cartoony, if you like. But there you can see the Benchwarmers Brewing Company symbol. Them just chilling on the bench drinking beer. But yeah, 440ml. This one contains, like I say, coconut, vanilla, apricot, and it was passion fruit that was in this as well. So yeah, without further ado, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. The other thing I should say is that this beer was released as part of the local Småskaligt assortment through Systembolaget here in Sweden in January of 2021. I believe the exact release date was the 4th of January for this one. The other thing I'll say about this beer as well, when I had a quick look at Untappd earlier, this one is actually not very highly rated. So I'm curious to see about this, because, you know, I have had nice beers in the past from Benchwarmers, and, you know, sometimes Untappd can sometimes be good, sometimes it can be a little bit off, because I've had like beers that have been rated quite badly and then they've turned out to be quite nice, and, you know, vice versa. So yeah, I'm curious to see how it turns out in this instance, because I think this only had like a 3.1 or something, which is fairly low compared to the other Benchwarmers beers, right enough. So we'll see how we get on with this one. But yeah, like I say, 4.5% hazy New England IPA with a good bit of fruit added into it, so we'll see. But yeah, as you can see, this beer's poured a lovely kind of quite rich, almost slightly murky yellow. It does look kind of like a mixed, if we're comparing it to the fruit juices, as I often do with these kind of New England IPAs, this one definitely looks like a kind of mixed tropical fruit juice. You can see there was about a maybe 2/3 finger of a frothy, I would say kind of creamy coloured head on this one, not perfect white, one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, and, you know, a few little ones creeping up towards the bottom of that head there. But you can see this beer is pretty damn hazy. Remember, when it comes to the colour of your beer, it's really dependent on two things. One, the type of malts that you use, and then two, the length of the wort boil. The longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, thus the darker colour you get. But then again, it's also dependent on other things such as adjuncts, as we have in this beer, and in the first instance it is dependent on the type of malts that you use anyway. But yeah, this one is pretty damn hazy, I have to say. For a 4.5%, I think you're going to struggle to get hazier than that, to be quite honest with you. The level of haze in these beers, of course, is dependent on the oat and the wheat content, and adjuncts can do things like that as well. I guess you could probably say that the interactions of the yeast with different things in the beer can cause different levels of haziness as well. But for a 4.5%, the level of haze on this is pretty impressive. I've come across like triple and double New Englands that are not as hazy as this. So yeah, it just goes to show how many variables are at play when it comes to these craft beers. But yeah, in terms of a New England hazy IPA, nothing particularly surprising about the appearance. Let's take a closer look at the aroma and just see how we get on with this. Oh yeah, no, this smells like yogurt. It smells like fruit yogurt. Yeah. To be quite honest with you, if I was smelling this blind, you know, there would be two things I would probably think. Either it was a Milkshake IPA, or I would think that this is maybe some kind of like, you know, some kind of, just, you know, some sort of, no, I don't know if I might think it was a Berliner Weisse, to be honest with you. On first impression of the aroma, it does not smell like a, you know, a kind of a New England IPA, and I think that is what they're saying on the can, yeah. No, actually, no, it doesn't say on the can exactly what style it is. It just says a tropical juicy IPA. So yeah, that's fair enough, to be honest with you, but my impression of this beer would be that it's a kind of, it's a sort of, it reminds me, you know, it just reminds me of quite a few of these, you know, Berliner Weisses, you know, the likes of Elm 11 and you know, dark, you know, Morgendagens and Fermentarana, and you know, these kind of breweries. This beer really reminds me of some of the stuff that these kind of guys do. It does smell more like a kind of Berliner Weisse than anything else. So straight away with this one, you're going to notice it's the vanilla and the coconut that jump out of this beer at you. Of course, you've got the mango and the passion fruit. Sorry, you've got the apricot. It was apricot, wasn't it? Yeah, it's apricot and passion fruit that's in there. I do think you get a bit of mango out of this one, in fairness as well. But you've got these very soft kind of tropical fruit juices, but yeah, the vanilla is very powerful in this. The coconut comes out of it right away, and then you can just feel the tropical kind of fruity notes sitting on top of that. It really does smell more like a Berliner Weisse, I think, in a lot of ways, but it doesn't quite have the kind of sharp citricy note that you sometimes get from those. But then again, Berliner Weisses these days are becoming more and more sort of candied in their aromas, to be honest with you. Although the other thing to bear in mind with this is that, in fairness, when you take the aroma in a little bit more deeply, then you start to get the kind of grassy components of the hops, and you get the kind of floral aromaticity out of them as well. So it's definitely worth kind of bearing that in mind. Definitely worth bearing that in mind with this. Initially it will smell like one of these big fruity Gose Berliner Weisse type things, but then, you know, you will get a little bit more of the hoppiness out of the beer. So yeah, good little bit of grassiness to this one. If you take the aroma in quite deeply, there's a nice floral aromaticity. I get a teeny little bit of earthiness out of this one, but not overly much, to be honest with you. I'd be curious to know what hops it is they've used in this beer. I think it's definitely American of some description, so you know, maybe it's a little bit of Victoria's Secret, or you know, a bit of Simcoe or something like that. I think it's one of the softer kind of hops they've used in this. I wouldn't be surprised about Citra either, because there is a good bit of mango coming out of the beer as well. But yeah, the malt base in this one, when you take the aroma in, there's a good bit of wheaty character to it. You can smell the smoothness of the oats in there, and I think it's the oats and the vanilla kind of combining in this that give you that sort of yogurty impression, because it really does smell like a sort of tropical fruit petit filou kind of thing. It's really like that. So yeah, as I say, take the aroma in deeply. At the back of the nose you'll get the sort of bitiness of the wheat. In front of that you'll get the kind of smoother oaty qualities to the beer, and the vanilla and the coconut is kind of merged into that. And those, you know, all combined, the oats, the vanilla, the coconut, they really just give you this sort of yogurty type aroma to the beer. But as I say, good little bit of floral aromaticity coming out of this one, good little bit of light grassiness in there. Mangoes, definitely you can get a wee bit of the kind of more pungent passion fruit out of it, but I would say that this beer leans more towards the kind of apricots. There's a good bit of mango in there for sure, actually, and then you do get a wee touch of kind of citrusy zest on the kind of front of the nose as well. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of got everything you would expect, to be honest with you. So it smells either like a Milkshake IPA or one of these kind of big fruity Berliner Weisse things that are going out there just now, to be honest with you. That's, if I was blind smelling this, that's probably what I would think this beer was, actually. It's not overly obvious that it's an IPA in my mind, actually, if you were to blind smell it. But yeah, take a bit of time and enjoy the aroma. It's a nice aroma, don't get me wrong on that. Don't get me wrong on that. As I say, it is just more, if you are kind of looking for a kind of more classical New England IPA, that's not what you're going to get here. But yeah, take a little bit of time and enjoy that aroma. But let's try this one now and see how we get on. When they say it's, you know, tropical and juicy, you know, I think it's fair enough to say that you do get that in the aroma. But yeah, let's have a look at this one then. This is the Tropic Fluff, a 4.5% New England fruit hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA from Benchwarmers Brewing Company in Rå, just to the south of Helsingborg here in Skåne in the south of Sweden. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skål, cheers. Yeah. Now this one, there's something a little bit unusual in the middle of the palate here. The first impression of this beer is it's very wet and it's very light, but there's this kind of almost just really dry and bitter flavour starts to kind of come out in the middle of the palate with this one, and I would suggest that it's maybe something with the yeast. Yeah, there's something in the middle of the palate. You're going to notice when you take this beer in, it's lovely and it's juicy and it's kind of fruity, to be honest with you. But then there's a really strange flavour comes out of this. there is a really unusual flavour comes out of this in the middle of the palate, and I'm not sure exactly what that is. It's almost like a kind of, it's almost like the same kind of dryness and bitterness you would expect of like black malt, you know, and that's obviously that is really out of place in this beer, to be honest with you. So I would suspect that it's something has gone wrong with one of the yeasts or something like that, because, you know, it's almost, it could be a couple of things. It's almost like that kind of, the bitterness you get out of it, it reminds me a little bit of kind of, you know, sort of, it reminds me a little bit of sort of graininess. Things like that. It's got that grainy, dry, bitter thing. It reminds me of black malt, grainy, dry malt, black malt bitterness, but then it also has a little bit, it's almost a little bit like the kind of hop burn thing you can get if you have a New England IPA when it's too, you know, when it's too fresh, basically. This is why I always say, you know, these New England IPAs, you need to let them mature a little bit. I'm reviewing this beer for you on the 3rd of February. So this beer, I'm drinking it basically a month after it's been released, but I don't think this is a flavour that would evolve out of the beer just in the space of a month, because the beer, you know, it's not as if it would have lactose that would go bad. I mean, I'm not sure. It must be something from the yeast actually that's gone a little bit awry in this beer. And yeah, and I mean, it does linger there. It isn't just something that, you know, kind of, it isn't just something that kind of disappears a little bit when you, you know, when the beer sort of evolves on the palate a little bit. And that's really strange, because the beers I've had from these guys in the past are usually very good quality. So I'm not sure what it is about this one. I mean, it's not the sourness of the fruit. It's not like hop burn or whatever. And it's not graininess. It must be something with the yeast that's gone wrong here. There must be something in this beer that's interacting with the yeast in a really strange way, and maybe there's been something wrong with the kind of fermentation and stuff like this. But yeah, there's just something not quite right about this beer. But let's kind of bear with it and see. We'll do a review anyway. So yeah. Other than that, I mean, the middle of your palate, let's just say that, straight away across the middle of your palate, you're going to feel there's that sort of, you do get a little bit of a pale malty note to the beer, you can feel that sitting in there, but on top of that, you get this sort of, that hop burny, almost really dry, really bitter sort of thing. That's in the middle third of your palate. And that's the thing, I mean, it needs to be smoother in the middle of the palate to complement the other things that are going on in the beer, because it's almost like they've got, you know, 80-90% of the beer really quite nice, and then there's just something gone wrong with the yeast. So yeah, I'm not sure what would have caused that, but yeah, when you go further back in the on the palate, you get quite a bit of a kind of well-fired bread crust, you know, on that border region between middle third and back third of your palate. On the back third of your palate, there is maybe still a little bit of graininess there, but I think the wheat comes out a little bit more, and the wheat does give you a little bit of, just a little bit of kind of bitiness to the beer, if that makes sense, and it gives the beer a little bit of cohesion. Pardon me. So yeah, I mean, that kind of saves the malty side of the beer a little bit, but not enough, I would say. There's just something that's not right about the malt, about the malt and the yeast in this one. There's just something going wrong with this beer, to be quite honest with you, and it's a bit of a shame, because everything, the fruity side of it, the hoppy side of it, and the wheaty aspect of it is quite nice, but this little, well, this thing that's going on in the very middle of your palate is just not right. It's just not right, unfortunately, and that's unusual for Benchwarmers, like I say. And you know, the more kind of sips I take of the beer, it kind of lingers there, to be honest with you. And I mean, the only other thing I can think of is it's the thing that you've got going on in the middle of your palate. Like I say, it's almost like it's got a little bit of that kind of bitterness that you'd expect of black malt. It's a little bit like a kind of hop burn, like a kind of green hop burn sort of thing. And the other thing is, it's like that very pungent kind of citrusy note that you'd almost expect of, you know, like grapefruit or something like that. It's almost like this, it's like a very slightly, it's like a really sour, really citrusy, really kind of bitter type quality. That dominates the middle of your palate there. And I would think for a beer like this, if you're going for this kind of element to it, you would maybe want it just to be a little bit sweeter almost, and just a little bit more kind of rounded, and this beer just lacks that, to be honest. All I can think of is that there's been something gone wrong with the yeast, or maybe some of the fruit that's been put in the beer has, you know, gone off a little bit or something, but yeah, something not quite right about that. And I have had beers that are this kind of age, if you like. I have had beers that are this age and with fruit in them, and it hasn't been something that's gone wrong with the fruit. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly what that is, but yeah, not there's as I say, I just think there's something with the yeast in this beer that's gone a little bit awry. But you know, on that, as you move towards the kind of front half of that front third of that middle third of your tongue, a little bit of vanilla, a little bit of coconut kind of coming out of it, and you can feel a wee bit of the kind of oaty thing in there as well. So that kind of big bitter flavour that sits in the middle of the palate, that fades away a little bit the further you go into the aftertaste with the beer. But otherwise, it's just kind of, it's quite interesting from that perspective, to be honest with you. But yeah, in terms of the hoppy and bitter side of the beer, so in the back corners of the palate there's definitely a little bit of earthiness to this one. And as you move further forward along the side, you do get quite a bit of dankness, and sort of, you can get a little bit of an almost piney resiny note. You do get a little bit of floral aromaticity coming out of the beer. And then round the front curve of the palate, there's a little bit of lighter sort of grassiness and things starts to come out of it as well. So that's an interesting point to make about this beer for sure. It's just, it has got a little bit of, it does have a little bit of kind of hoppy bitterness to it as well, which is interesting. So yeah. But the thing is, on the fruity side of the beer, the hoppy side and the fruity side of this beer are, you know, are pretty nice. As I say, it does develop a little bit of bitterness, but the fruity juicy side of this beer is interesting. So let's focus on that now. Let's focus on the fruity part of the beer. As I always say, on that front third of your palate, that's where you get the nice oily bubble, where those juicy fruity esters will just roll their way out of the beer, and those are the ones, of course, that are extracted from the hops. So on that front third of your palate, there is a good little bit of passion fruit in there, and I mean, maybe they've used a bit of Galaxy, Victoria's Secret, something like that in here, because it is quite a pungent passion fruit that you get out of this one, and you can just feel that sort of dominating the front third of your palate. There's a little bit of mango in there, you know, so maybe there's a wee bit of citra or something like that, but as you reach the kind of front edge of the tongue, there is just a little touch of zestiness there. But the thing is, when you add fruits into beer as adjuncts, it always comes out around the kind of front edges of the tongue. It always suppresses a little bit of the green component of the beer, and you get that right away with this one. So yeah, there's quite a little bit of a sort of mango, and as I say, it does almost have quite a juicy mango quality. It develops more like mango kind of notes on that front third of your palate, but then you get a lot of the passion fruit. You get quite a kind of pungent passion fruit flavour on the edges of your palate here, but you also get the kind of apricot-y notes, the softer apricot-y notes kind of towards the kind of tip of your tongue, if you like, as well, actually, which is interesting. So it's a really kind of quirky beer, this one, and I do like how it goes together from that perspective. But yeah, the fruity side of the beer is quite wet and quite juicy, which is quite nice. So like I say, it's almost like they've got about, you know, 80–90% of this beer right. There's just something not right about the flavour in the middle part of this. So if they can take this recipe back to the drawing board, you know, maybe make it a little bit more sort of oaty leaning, if that makes sense. Change the yeast up. I don't know what yeast they would have used in this, but I think if they can change it up and make this into a slightly sweeter, more maybe make it into a milkshake IPA, which it seems like that might have been the intention when they made this beer. If they can change it into a sort of more oaty leaning beer, then I think it would actually turn out quite nicely. But there's just something not right about this. So to be honest with you, I can understand why this one is not rated as one of their higher beers on Untappd, and this is unusual, as I say, for Benchwarmers, because normally these guys are doing some pretty solid beers. I've had solid beers both at their tap room and in the cans that I've had before, so there's just something no right about this one, and that's, yeah, it's disappointing. It's disappointing, to be honest, but it is unusual for this brewery. But you know, these things happen every so often. But it's not going to put me off trying more beers from these guys, because I know what they can do. But hopefully they can take this one back to the drawing board and, you know, just make it this is the sort of beer that you want to be a little bit more kind of sweet and bright, if you like. So yeah, hopefully they can take this one back, you know, just get a bit more smoothness and sweetness and oatiness, I guess, in the malt base, and kind of round it off a little bit more. But yeah, it's a shame, that it is a shame. But in terms of the mouthfeel and stuff, then in terms of the mouthfeel, I would say this beer is, you know, I would say that this beer, it's got quite a nice, it's got a nice kind of solid, it comes across as kind of at the bottom end of mid-body. The carbonation is quite smooth. It's got a very wet mouthfeel, to be honest with you, but at the same time the fruits make it quite juicy. There is a good little bit of bitterness to this beer. Whether that's the kind of problem with the malt base like I've described, or whether there's a good bit of hoppy bitterness, I wouldn't be surprised if this beer is about 40 or 50 IBUs, to be honest with you. It does have a good little bit of hoppy bitterness to it, but there's an impression of a higher bitterness because of that thing with the malt base. So yeah, good, yeah, 50 IBUs I think. The malt base, like I say, needs sorted out, as does the yeasty component of the beer, because there's just something no right about it. It's too dry and it's too bitter and dark almost, but then you do have a really nice kind of fruity juicy component to this one. So the hops and the fruits in this beer are done very well, but there's just something gone awry with the kind of malty side of it actually. And yeah, say it's like yeah, barley, wheat and oat malt in this. There's just this, it's unfortunate this beer's just not really worked out actually. So I hope they can take this recipe back to the drawing board and just, you know, fix it up actually, because it needs that. And I suppose that's the risk with it being a lower alcohol beer as well. It's only 4.5%, so maybe they could, if they took this up to say 6%, put a bit more oats and stuff in it, that would maybe save it as well. Just, it needs to be a bit more sweet, smooth and rounded almost. I think that's a fair statement to make about this one. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this review. Unfortunately, yeah, I can understand the Untappd ratings that this beer has, because there's just something not right about the beer, unfortunately. But that, as I say, is very unusual for this brewery, because normally their stuff is pretty solid. So yeah, we'll need to go back to them again at some stage and see how that works out. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one was the Tropic Fluff, Tropical Fluff, yeah, Tropical Fluff from Benchwarmers Brewing Company in Rå, just to the south of Helsingborg here in Skåne in the south of Sweden. Definitely something a bit strange about this beer, as I said, but hopefully we'll have another good beer from these guys at some stage quite soon. But I won't be leaving it 18 months before I review another of their beers. I'll keep an eye for what they're going to release through the Lokalis Muskelite, and we'll get something else reviewed from them quite soon. But in the meantime, thank you for watching my reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Benchwarmers Brewing Company, and hopefully, as I say, we can return to these guys fairly soon. But this one was the Tropical Fluff, 4.5% New England Hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA, with passion fruit, apricot, coconut and vanilla added into the brew. And yeah, interesting review of this one. But thanks again for watching. Check out my social media, check out Benchwarmers Brewing Company, and I'll catch you guys very soon. Slàinte, skål, cheers.